Hey everybody, welcome back. Devin, the OG original Grognard, sitting down, beginning a playthrough of one of the scenarios from Weston Games, East Front Tank Leader, 1986, designed by the indomitable Hill. Is it John or Jim? I think it was John. I'm an idiot. Who is the designer of Advanced Squad Leader. Kind of went over a lot of the gameplay mechanics in my last video. So there's not much in the way of mechanics that I need to go over. A few things that I do kind of need to touch on. But yeah, we'll get that as gameplay goes on. Oh, I do want to say real quick, and this probably isn't, really a big thing to anybody else, but to me it's huge. We have hit 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Now, I am currently working through my mind and working on something to commemorate that, because honestly, I never thought I'd get this far. Yeah, it's kind of a huge milestone for me. And I would never got this far without all you guys. Much love and appreciation that you're all willing to sit down and subscribe to my mindless banter and bloviating at times. Because honestly, most of this is I couldn't do without the fan support. I wouldn't want to do it without the fan support. So you guys, you guys are great. That's just all I got to say for now. Like I said, I got something in mind and in works, and we'll probably have a special video on that coming at some point soon. So anyways, going through the scenarios, I wanted to go through a basic scenario. I didn't want to jump into the advanced scenarios with infantry and artillery and all that other good stuff, because honestly, when you think of the Eastern Front, it's all about the armor. Everybody loves the tanks. So went with a few other a couple other videos that are out there, normally covering the Battle of Prokhorovka. I think it's Prokhorovka. We're not doing that one because, like I said, we've already seen that one done a few times. But we are going to be doing the battle for the Berlin-Seelowe Highway, spring 1945. Late spring of 1945, Soviet armies reached the Oder River and readied for the assault on Berlin. Yada, yada, yada. 0600 hours. On March 22nd, the Soviets attacked. German infantry halted the Soviet infantry and assault guns, but could do nothing to stop the tanks. The IS-2s and T-34-85s continued westward sans infantry support. Ahead, the Germans waited in ambush. As the Panthers engaged head-on, the Tigers attacked the Soviet right flank. By the end of the day, over 60 Soviet tanks were burning. The Panzers had won their last victory. Yeah, so Berlin-Seelowe Heights, the highway between the two. This is what the scenario is going to be for. So let's take a look at the map and the units and just basically kind of go over what we're looking at here. I kind of went over the unique features of the map in the last video, so let's go ahead and take a look real quick at what these features are going to. Actually, I don't think we're going to be able to zoom in close enough. All right, so we're not going to worry about it. So it is springtime. The urban is sparse. So what that means is that the brown urban hexes are considered clear, and the black urban hexes are considered wood buildings. Now that's one thing I wanted to check, is if the brown buildings, which are ruins, counts as, I think that just counts as soft cover. I don't think it counts as actual clear terrain for spotting, but I think it counts as soft cover for spotting. And you know what? I think that's what we're going to go with. And then, of course, hard cover is the actual buildings and woods. Those are really the only, and of course hills if you're on the same site. Those are really the only two things that are going to block line of sight, aside from hills, is going to be woods and the buildings. And the contours are rolling, so that means level 1 is going to be all the white and the green hexes. These are all going to be level 1. And then kind of this light brown, or level 0. The light brown is going to be level 1, and the dark brown is going to be level 2. So basically, all the green hill hexes you see out here, just ignore that. That's all considered flat, open, clear terrain, unless there's, terrain in the hex itself. And the area is considered wooded, which means bush hexes are actually bush hexes. which are soft cover but don't block line of sight. And the dark green are actually woods hexes, which are hard cover and do block line of sight. The river is a river, streams are streams, bridges, you know, the road, and then there's fords. Those are all operating as normal. Game length, probably see that over here, 8 turns long. Visibility is 10 hexes, so we're probably going to not have too much of an issue seeing stuff. The actual highway itself consists of, I believe, is it German 5 or Soviet 5? Several different roads that enter or arrows that enter on the map, and some of them are the German entry hexes, and some of them are Soviet entry hexes. Let's see. German Road 5. All right, so this is the start of the Ceelo Highway, Ceelo Berlin Highway right here, and it comes and meanders, I believe, all the roads along that, and then exit over here is considered, you know, the highway. It does specifically say that these 2 road hexes right here are not part of the highway, so I'm going to assume that even though it branches here, that this lower half is also considered part of the Ceelo Highway. Well, what are we looking at? Well, let's take a look at our forces. Take a look at our forces right off the bat. Let's take a look at the Soviets. We've got 2 different commands. I should probably put these together. Oh, no, I remember why I broke them up that way. I broke them up by formation. So you've got 7th Guards Tank Brigade, and typically, normally, they have 3 subcommands, but only in this game we only have 2 subcommands, 1-7 and 2-7. And here's 1-7, A and B companies of 1-7, and A and B companies of 2-7. And since we are playing in 1945, they are T-34s. Those 85s? Those might be 85s. Yeah, those are T-34 85s. TARP. That's their command and control letter, which will come in handy in determining initiative and all that. Morale. But yeah, so we've got basically 3, 6, 9, 12 tanks, 12 tank platoons from 7th Guards Tank Brigade. And then our other one is 28th Guards Heavy Tank Regiment, which consists of A, B, C, and D companies of the 28th. And that's what we actually have fully here. A, B, C, and D companies of the 28th. And all of those are IS-2s. I believe each formation is the IS-2s. So we got some pretty beefy vehicles out here, some pretty beefy tanks that the Soviets had. And they basically enter on from the east map edge, so basically anywhere over here. And their objective is to exit off units off of that road right there. So they got the entire length of the map they want to try to boogie through. Yeah, they also get points for destroying the Germans, but they get more points for exiting stuff. Let's take a look at the Germans. The Germans have 2 tank companies. Neither one of them have a higher command formation. So A91, A Company, 91st SS Tank Battalion, and B Company, 91st SS Tank Battalion, which A Company looks like those are King Tigers? No, those are Tigers. No. One thing I complained about earlier is it's really hard to tell with the silhouettes. That could either be a tiger or a panther, and then those look like King Tigers. So, yeah. Not sure which one. Not sure if they're King Tigers. Well, nah, not going to worry about it. Also, we have a unit of reserves that will come on. I got these guys over here, which is A Company, 3rd Battalion. Since it's 1945, these guys are Panthers. So the Panthers will be coming in reserve. And I'll get into that in a little bit as soon as I clean up my mess I made here, dropping counters all over the place. Now, the Germans enter on turn 1 between those 2 roads. This road here and that road there. They enter from the north side there. And the reinforcements can enter anywhere on the south side or northwest and south sides on any turn they want. But any turn they want after turn 4. So I'm bringing them on turn 4. They're going to be entering through this road 2 right here. So that's where those reserves are going to come in. Okay, a little something about tactical doctrine. I didn't go over that in the last videos. Both sides have got a tactical doctrine that their companies and higher commands need to maintain. Basically, for the Soviets, anything in a company, i.e. anything that is represented by a card, they have to remain in the same hex. So these 3 tanks of A Company, 2nd Battalion, 7th Guards, A27, those 3 tanks, be it 1942, 43, or the 44, 45 versions, those 3 tanks have to remain stacked together, or they'll be out of command range. Basically, if you do end up out of command range, you lose, I think it's a few points on your morale. So if you got to take a morale check, it's going to be a lot harder. Not that big of a penalty, but it is something you have to be aware of. Now, for higher command formations with the German or with the Soviets, when you have like a command for like the 7th Guards, 7th Tank Brigade, which is basically these 4 companies, all of those units have to be at the end of the turn or during the morale phase, have to be within 1 hex of each other or 2 hexes inclusively. Let me check that just to make sure. Within 2 hexes, 1 intervening hex of a designated central hex. So basically what you're going to have is you're going to have 4 stacks of Soviets. If you want to keep them all in command range, you're going to have 4 stacks of Soviets, and all 4 of those stacks are going to have to be within 1 hex of an intervening hex. So you designate a central hex, and they all need to be within 1 hex of that, or that entire formation, that company that's out of it, is going to be out of command. And again, they're going to lose, morale checks if they need to make morale tests. And you don't want that, because the Soviets don't have very good morale to begin with. So conversely, we also have a higher command of 7th Guards Tank Brigade. So basically, 28th Guards Heavy Tank Regiment. We've got 4 companies, and again, all the units from each company have to be stacked together or they'll be out of command with each other. And then all 4 of the companies have to be within 1 hex of a central hex, or the company is out of command. So you basically, with the Soviets in this game, you got big blobs moving around you, because the game goes off of unit movement. It's 1 unit at a time. 1 unit moves, 1 unit shoots. You can't combine fire. You can't stack fire. It's all 1 unit at a time. But they all have to maintain this company battalion cohesion at the end of the turn, or they'll be out of command. So, which can kind of be a little bit frustrating with the Soviets, because that means they really got to think ahead, because they've got this basically a blob that they have to move, and they can't just kind of spread out however they want. Now, the Germans have a little bit more flexibility. The Germans, when it comes to their companies have to be within 1 hex radius of an intervening hex. So the German companies operate like the Soviet battalions do. Now, the companies, even if there was a higher command card for this, the companies can operate independently of each other. They don't have to remain close to each other like the Soviets do. So, I mean, it's a real good way to mimic a Soviet command and control, especially, I would think, during the early stages of the war, when we would call what it was called the hen and chicks, when the Soviet armor, really units in a platoon and a company, even a battalion, had to stay right on top of each other, because like only 1 tank in the platoon had a radio. And so if you wanted to know what your orders were, you had to keep an eye on the platoon commander if he didn't get knocked out. So you had very close compact formations. I don't know how historically accurate that would be for later war issues, post 43, 44. But, that's what the rules are. That's what we got to stick with. So that's the command doctrine. I wanted to go over that a little bit. I think that's it. I think that's all I have to go over. I think we can actually just jump right into gameplay. Turn 1. So we're going to do that. Okay, now, how does command and control and initiative and all that good stuff work? Well, basically, since we're jumping right into it, let's take a look at the turn sequence, because turn sequence is really, really easy. I mean, there's 3 sequences. There's reinforcements, operations, morale. That's it for the sequence of play. Now, granted, there are more subheadings under the reinforcements and definitely the operations and the morale phase. But those are the three major segments of the game. So first turn, reinforcements. Neither side has reinforcements. Don't have to worry about that. All right, jump into operations. Okay, so how operations work. Remember earlier I was telling you about the C3I numbers. You got D, C, all that good stuff. All right, well, you always start off with whoever has the lowest command and control plays a card first. Now, the lowest command and control is F. We don't have any of those in this game, and they even have more restrictions on them. One thing I did want to announce real quick. There is a special rule that the Soviet formations get an extra 2d6. All Soviet units get a 2d6 extra movement at the beginning of the game to represent the surprise breakout. So this could be really good for the Germans if the Soviets roll a 2 and only get 2 additional movement points. It's going to be really bad for the Germans if they roll a 12 and get 12 extra movement points. So let's see. I know I don't have my dice class down. I'm not going to worry about it. So, 8. Could have been better, could have been worse. So the Soviets are going to get 8 extra movement points on the beginning of their first turn. And so, okay, so we go back, we decide, all right. So the Soviets, the lowest command and control we have is D. That's the lowest. We've got 4 cards that are D. So these cards are going to have to be played first. So we go ahead and we'll just go ahead and randomly flop one down because they're all essentially the same company, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is A27, A Company, 2nd Battalion, 7th Guards. And the cool thing is that all the counters actually have... Let's see if I can try to... All right there. A27. So those are the 3 platoons of Company A27. Now, this does make setup a little bit annoying and hard because you just can't pull out, I got these T-34-85. No, you have to pull out the exact formation numbers. Annoying, but, this actually does make command and control a little bit easier later in the game. All right, so I played the command and control card of D, or for A27. Now, the Germans... Let's take a look. Germans only have got 2 cards right now. Both of them have command and control of A. If I wanted to interrupt them and play one of my formations first, I could play one of these cards right now. However, I really don't want to. I want to see where the Soviets are going to end up, and I don't want to bring my Germans on with the Soviets. I've got so much more to bring on. So we're not going to interrupt that movement. And I can only interrupt it. The Germans can only interrupt if it's the same formation, C3 or higher, i.e. if it's a D, I can play an A, B, C, or D. The Soviets could only play a higher command and control to interrupt if it's actually a higher C3. So if for some reason the Germans had played a D, the only way they could play an interrupt is with an A, B, and C. Again, representing the lower command and control that the Soviet forces had. A little less flexibility. But we're not doing any of that. We're just going straight to gameplay. They are going to play this card. No German interruptions. All right, so the Soviet player enters anywhere on the east edge on turn 1, and remember we get those 8 extra movement points. And we'll take a look at the counter real quick. Let's see if we can get it to zoom in. I really need a new camera. Come on, zoom in. Okay, so you got A27. You've got 7 right in front of the tank. That's actually the movement number. 9 is the anti-tank value. 8 is the defense value, and 3 is the anti-infantry number. Not worried about the anti-infantry number. Let me check that just to make sure I got that right. The anti-infantry number isn't used because, we don't have infantry in this game. And I did that on purpose. Yes, anti-infantry. And then, of course, range is the box in the upper right-hand corner. So these things got a range of 10. So now you do everything by unit. It doesn't matter if they come in. It doesn't matter that you have to maintain a company formation. The units move one at a time. You do everything one at a time. You move one unit. You shoot one unit. You can't combine fire. You can't combine fire at different targets. It's all one-for-one basis. So the Soviet player and the German player, to an extent, kind of has got to think ahead. All right, how big is my company? And I got to make sure my movement at the morale phase, I end up with everybody in command and control. So let's go ahead and bring the first guy on. Actually, you know what? Since there is no chance for opportunity fire, procedurally, they come in one at a time. I'm just going to move the entire stack just for ease of play. Moving on the road is a half. So, and their movement is 7, but they get 8 extra movement points. So they got 15 movement points. So they're actually going to be able to... All right, so half 1, half 2, half 3, half 4, half 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10... 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, so 15 movement points is going to get them right there. And we stayed on the road, so it was a half movement the entire way. All right, so that is done, and procedurally, after each unit's operation is done, you flip it over, gives a little shield insignia on the back to indicate that the operations for that unit is done for the turn. Can't do anything else, can't op fire, can't do another move, can't do another shoot, nothing. They're done. So this card has been played. I'm just going to go ahead and set it to the side, flip it over. Now, next unit. What unit is the next unit? We continue with the same command and control. Since D is the lowest command and control, well, guess what? D is going to be played. D has to be played next. So it doesn't matter. There's 3 units remaining that have the D command and control. So we're just going to play B27, B Company, 2nd Battalion, 7th Guards. They're going to play. The Germans, again, are not going to interrupt this. There's no need for them to interrupt this. They're going to go ahead and let the Soviet player go ahead and do their action. So we draw the 3 companies from B27 and move. Now, I know that you can have up to 6 units stacking in the same hex without, or in the same road hex without overstacking. And there is, let's see if we can find the stacking limits chart right here. So gives you, oh, total units. Vehicle units 3. Road clear brush. Okay, that actually kind of sucks because I thought total units was 6, but it's vehicle units 3. All right, so I am probably shooting myself in the foot because the company is 3 units. But we're going to go ahead and bring them on, and they're going to end up, we're going to move them right there. There's going to be 14.5 movement points. Flip them over to show that the operation is complete. I'm not going to count out the hexes. We already know that's a maximum of 15. So they're right there. That operation is done. Put that to the side, flip it over. No longer able to do anything. Now we go to the next command and control. Again, we look at what's the lowest command and control. Again, still the Soviets with the Ds. They're just going to throw out A17, 1st Company, 1st Battalion, 7th Guards. So it's A17. Again, they're entering on. They got 15 movement points. Yada, yada, yada. They are going to go ahead and end up here. And yeah, they're going to end up there. That card is done. Flip to the side. Flip to the operations complete. Final card, that's a D level command and control. Go ahead and play that, which is the final company of this battalion. B17, B Company, 1st Battalion, 7th Guards. Now this one I'm going to have to get a little bit tricky with, because if you remember, to be in command of each other, they need to be within 1 hex of a centralized local hex. Well, if I continue the way I'm doing it and just stick them right here, one of those units is going to be out of command and control. Again, not that big of a deal. You lose a little bit of your morale if you take any morale tests. So just, if they don't get shot at in the next turn, they're probably okay. But let's see what we can do if we can try to get them in a little bit tighter. Let's see if we can get a unit right there. I don't know if we're going to have the movement, but let's go ahead and try. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11 and a half, 12 and a half. And what does entering a fjord cost? Actually, it's a ford, not a fjord. Fjords are in Sweden. Let's see, what is a fjord? Where's the movement? Okay, Ford. Vehicle cost. Prohibited. Oh, no, here we go. Seasons effect chart. All right, so seasons effect chart. Ford is... It's springtime, 1 in, 1 out. Oh, yeah. One in, one out. Now what that means, costs 1 movement point to enter. Units may move no further. Units leaving may move only 1 hex only. So if I were to move into that ford, it would cost me 1 point to move in, but next turn I could only move 1 hex out, which would totally blow my company cohesion unless I wanted the entire, or the battalion cohesion, unless I wanted the entire battalion to wait for the idiots to get done driving in the ford. So actually, it looks like we're going to have those guys out of command. So instead, let's just go ahead and move them, yada, 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 right to there. And one of those companies is going to be out of command. All right. Discard that, turn that to the side. Now we look again, so we continue. We've gotten all the D's done. Now we have C's, when that's basically just the Soviets. So it's 28th Guards units. And they have 4 movement points, plus the 8 is going to be 12. So, where do we... And again, we're just going to randomly throw one on. Do the Germans want to interrupt? No, the Germans don't want to interrupt. Right in the 25-minute point. I'll be right back, because my stupid camera can't take longer than 25 or 30 minutes to record. And we're back. I really need to get a new camera. All right, so we're going to play D Company. We'll find those counters. And there's only 2 units in these companies. So let's see, and they've got 12 movement points instead of the 15. Well, technically I can come on anywhere on the east side. I was just coming down the road to maintain thematic. Well, we'll do it. We'll have these guys come on the road too. So half, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Looking at it now, I should have brought the T-34-85s on there. They probably would have been able to advance further. So we'll get to right there. Actually, right there. And then we're going to be done with that. So let's go ahead and discard that. That gets discarded. Well, not discarded, but completed. Next command and control again is going to be C. So we'll just randomly throw out one of the C formations. Germans are still not going to interrupt. So is that C-28? All right, so we know we can have 3 units in a hex. So, and we know that we can get there with enough movement points. So we're going to have one of the units in the company move there, and the other unit is going to move up into here. And you can mix and match units from different formations in the same hex as long as you don't overstack. So we'll go ahead and do that. Be done with that. Next command and control. Again, it's a C. Just throw that out. Are the Germans going to interrupt? No, the Germans are not going to interrupt. And they're going to move up. And the 2 of them are going to see what I did there. I kind of broke up the units a little bit so that we can get them all stacked together. That goes away. And then the final command and control of C card gets played. Are the Germans going to interrupt? No, the Germans are not going to interrupt. Wiggy, 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 wiggy. And they end up moving right there. All right, now, we've only got formation cards left for the Soviets left. And now, since we're all done with all the C command and controls, now we have to look to the B command and control, which will be... So that card has to be played next. 209th Heavy Tank Regiment. What can a higher command and a parent card do? Well, basically, you can play this as a use to activate one of its subunits instead of doing it during its normal activation, or you can use this to try to give a morale test for one of your companies that have become shaken. So this is a good time that if you're or at least for the Soviets, if you have one of your formations that's shaken and you want to try to get them back in good fighting order before the end of the turn, everybody can roll during the morale phase, but this will give you an extra chance. So you got a command and control card. You got 2 things you can do with it. Activate a subunit. We can't because all the subunits have been activated. That's been indicated by them being flipped over. Or we can try to reorganize, unshake, unsuppress. Can't remember what it is. It's one of those 2. One of their subunits. None of them. So play the card. Nothing happens. Germans didn't interrupt. Yada, yada. Okay, now we get down to A's. A's are the only command cards left. Well, what happens when you have multiple command cards? of the same command and control from both sides. Well, Soviets get screwed. They have to play theirs first. So that's a higher command card. Again, what can we do with it? Either activate a unit that hasn't been activated yet, or try to unsuppress a suppressed unit. Now, you may be asking, well, why would I, if the lower formations have worse initiative than the parent formation, what good does it do me if I'm going to be playing this after my other formations? Well, what happens if you get into a situation where, say, you have a D command, and say the Germans interrupt it with, we'll pretend this is a B command. Don't look at that as an A. Think of that as a B. Well, then this command card, since it's an A command, can override the B, and now you can go back and either activate a different unit or activate the unit that you wanted activated originally. So it's mostly used for interrupt purposes. Also used to, well, the more important thing is to unsuppress companies that are suppressed. Shaken, I can't remember which one it is. Individual units are either shaken or suppressed, and then command formations can be shaken or suppressed. Which one is it? Because I want to get the nomenclature correct. Okay. Human operations, yada yada yada. Okay, a unit that fails a morale check becomes suppressed. A formation that fails the morale becomes shaken. I'll forget that, but there, we know what the nomenclature is. All right, so Soviets have to play the A command card. Do the Germans want to interrupt? At this point, the point is kind of moot. It's, he can't do anything with it. But I will say, just for procedural sake, because if for some reason I interrupt him, am able to shoot and suppress his units, he can then, when his command card comes up after mine is done, can then use that command card to unsuppress his units. So I'm going to say no, I'm not going to interrupt. Soviets can't really do anything. Cards get set to the side. Now it's the Germans' turn. They've got 2 A command cards. Really doesn't matter which one they do. I think we're going to use... let's bring on the King Tigers first. So I'm going to play the King Tigers first. And what did I do with the King Tigers? Way across the map. Okay. All right. Now they can only enter in between these 2 roadways. Can they enter on the roads? I gotta check that. That is very, very important. Inclusive or exclusive. Words matter. Between roads 3 and 4 inclusively. So they can enter on the roads as well. So that's what we're going to have to do. Take those guns off. So we got the King Tiger counters. And they've got a whole movement of 3 because King Tigers are really, really, really slow. And we're going to want to keep them on the road because they're really, really, really slow. All right, so we're going to go 1/2 1, 1/2 2, 1/2 3. Wow. They didn't get very far, did they? And since there is no op fire, we're just going to say move the entire company together because we can have 3 units in a stack. Flip them over to their operations complete side. That company is done. Get set to the side. Final command card played, which is the last platoon or last company, 4 units I have of Tigers or Panthers or what. I think those are Tigers. They're going to come on as well. Now they got a little bit better movement. They got a movement of 4. It really sucks that the Soviets got those 8 extra inches, because I was hoping to be able to get my German armor on here to be able to put fire down on them, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Where do I want to do? I want these guys. No, it's a losing battle if I try to chase them. So they're going to enter on that road up there as well. But they've got 1 extra movement. So, and since I can only have 3 stacked in a hex before it's overstacking, we're going to have 2 of them move at the maximum along the road. And then 2 more kind of staggering behind. So we don't overstack, but we're still in Still in command control radius. All right, so that's basically the operations phase. Now you go into the morale phase, and the morale phase is kind of the most robust and most complete. Well, it's the thing that's got the most different things that can happen in it. So first thing you do is you make morale checks for all suppressed units on the map to see if they recover. There is none, so we don't have to worry about that. Attempt to recover all shaken combat formations. Again, no shaken formations. Don't have to worry about that. The players make a formation morale check for all combat formations that lost a unit this current turn. So yeah, that's how normally in combat, if you're shooting at a unit, that's how a unit will become suppressed. A formation will become shaken as if they failed a morale test at the end of the turn, if during that turn they lost a unit from one of their sub-formations. So for example, if this stack, I don't remember who it is, if it's A17, if A17 lost a unit that turn through combat, at the end of the turn, the formation needs to make a morale check or find out if they're suppressed. Bad thing about being suppressed is you can't do anything with them. You can't move them. I mean, the card is taken from the deck. You can't even play the card. So you don't want formations to become suppressed or shaken. No, suppressed. Then next step is players must eliminate any overstacked units. We made sure we didn't have that. Players remove unoccupied entrenchments and fire zones. Fire zones are basically artillery strikes. We don't have that. Players must check their formations to see if they are separated. Place separated markers on units that are separated from their formations. All right, so again, getting back to, we'll start off with the Germans because Germans are easy. German command and control is their companies have to be within 1 hex of a central hex. That entire company is within 1 hex of a central hex. And let's say we'll nominate this hex for the other company. They're within 1 hex of a central hex. So all the German formations are in command, so we don't have to worry about any of them being separated. For the Soviets, we moved them all pretty much on... Oh, crap. I did it wrong. Soviet companies can't break up. And I'm sure some of you may have caught that when I was doing that. Oh, I can't break them. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We'll just stagger these guys out. Well, I could have, but I don't want my guys to get individual units to get separated. All right, so back to what I was saying earlier. The companies, the individual stacks, all of them are stacked together. All the formations are in the same hex. All the company formations are not separated. Now, battalion formations, now we have to take a look at that. And let's make sure that the effect on a battalion out of being separated is the same as a unit being separated from its company. Tactical doctrine. Yeah, it's just morale rolls. Oh, it also subtracts from their fire dice rolls. Good thing I caught that. All right, so battalion, which we do have, these are two, quote-unquote, two battalions with parent formations. They all need to be, all units of the company must be within 1 hex of each other. So we're going to nominate, let's go ahead with this company. We're going to nominate this hex right here. So all companies in, which one is that, 7th Guards? Yeah, that's 7th Guards. Need to be within 1 hex of each other. Well, 3 of the formations are, 1 formation is not. So that entire formation is actually going to be separated. Let's see if we can find a separated marker. Oh, and for you sharp-eyed individuals, you're right. These are not clipped. I didn't feel like clipping them. So, is there a marker? I don't think there actually... Oh, yeah, there is. There are markers for being... Oh, nope, that's... Yeah, that's separated. So we'll just go ahead and put that right there. It's separated. So we know that that company is separated. So they'll all suffer from lower morale tests and from not being able to hit real well. And kind of the same thing over here. We weren't able to get all the formations next to each other. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and nominate this hex as the central hex. So those 3 companies are within command, but this one is going to be separated. So, and then I think the only thing left is to flip counters over. I think that's the end of the morale phase. This rule book is not laid out the best. It's not a bad rule book, but it's just It's not the best rule book either. Yeah, players flip all non-suppressed units to the front side and then advance the counter 1 box. So basically, everybody comes back up. Fix the Germans. And we got all the Soviets to do. Big fat hairy arms in the way. Get these all. Now, you can see this can probably be a time-consuming pain in the butt if you've got lots and lots and lots of counters on the board. In the future, I may not flip these guys over. I'll just have to remember what units have been activated and what hasn't been activated. But procedurally, when operations for any unit is done, you flip it over. But like I said, for saving time in the future, I may not flip them over. I'll just mentally remember which ones have been ops complete or not. And then basically advance to turn 2. And that's the first turn. Closing in on 35, 40 minutes here. I think it's a good place. I don't think we're going to get into turn 2 yet. Granted, I spent, a lot of time explaining some rules, mechanics. So I'd probably, from here on out, probably be able to get, depending on how long combat takes me with each one or 2 turns in per video. But yeah, so that's a beginning look at Eastern Front Tank Leader, West End Games, 1986. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms in the comment section. I'll see everybody next time. See ya!